Of course, the first game on Championship Sunday will be Baltimore hosting Kansas City. Right now, that number is sitting Baltimore -3.5. Some shops showing 4. To discuss that, Bo Smolka is going to join us. Press Box Ravens beat writer at @bsmolka on Twitter. And I believe, Bo, first off, thank you, Bo. And I believe Bo was just leaving the open press conference there, or availability with Mr. Harbaugh at Ravens facility. And can I start here? Do we know the best weather forecast for Sunday, Bo?
Hi, thanks for having me. The last we saw of the weather on Sunday, temperature is supposed to be about in the maybe 40s, and it's supposed to rain in the morning, but maybe not by afternoon. I think it might be kind of damp, clammy, but it's not going to be freezing, and it's not going to be snowing. So that's the latest. It should be on the warm side for January and may or may not be dry.
Bo, can you give us an update on injuries? Marlon Humphrey, Mark Andrews, what your potential expectation and what they've said so far about these two participating on Sunday?
Yeah, Harbaugh tends to play it coy, and he did again when we asked him on Monday. He said, we'll just have to wait and see. Andrews practiced all last week, and quite honestly, I thought he might play against Houston, and he did not. We saw him out on the practice field again today. He's moving well. I personally think he's going to play this Sunday. I don't want to be the guy that has to tell Mark Andrews, you're not playing in the AFC Championship game, but he's moving pretty well, and I think if he does play, they will ration him. I mean, let's face it, Isaiah Likely has been terrific since Mark Andrews went out. I think we could see a case where Likely is still the primary tight end and Andrews is on the field for 3rd and 5, down near the goal line, situations like that, and they kind of they pitch count Mark Andrews, if you will. Humphrey's a little trickier because he hadn't practiced in 3 weeks until today he was on the field. He moved pretty well, quite honestly. He had a calf injury against Miami, and he hasn't practiced since. He was out there today. John Harbaugh told us Monday, well, if you see him in practice this week, you should get a good idea. I think he's certainly going to try to play as well, but Andrews is the one that I think is more likely to play.
Bo Smolka joining us, talking Ravens, was just there at the open conference. I think I saw Lamar say, Bo, he doesn't like taking on Patrick Mahomes. You wrote about the matchups in the past. Can you give us an idea of what the rest of the Ravens had to say about Mahomes and the Chiefs coming to town Sunday?
Yeah, Lamar Jackson always wants to say, look, it's not me against Mahomes. I don't play against Mahomes. I play against their defense. And he's right. The fact is they've played 4 times. They've been paired up head-to-head, and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have won 3 of them. And there have been some great games. Jackson's rookie year, Mahomes had to make an absolute prayer pass to Tyreek Hill on 4th down to keep the drive alive, and then the Chiefs won in overtime. They beat him the next 2 years, and at one point Lamar Jackson said the Chiefs were his kryptonite. And then the last time they played, Jackson ran for 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter, and the Ravens beat the Chiefs. If you talk to the Ravens, they all say Patrick Mahomes is he's a one-of-one kind of guy. He's just a magician with the ball in his hands. They have to be aware of everything he can do. So it's a great matchup. I mean, it's a great matchup of 2 transcendent quarterbacks. But I think that the Ravens defenders, like Roquan Smith was talking today, this will be his first time playing against Patrick Mahomes. And he said, look, he is an elite player. We know he's an elite player, but we're an elite defense. And let's go and see what happens. So they really, defensively, they really embrace the challenge of it.
Bo, you mentioned Roquan Smith, and my question is in particular to him. They gave up a 2nd and a 5th round pick to get him in 2023, even though the trade occurred in 2022. Has there been any player who's more underappreciated, who's been 2 consecutive first-team All-Pros, 4-time All-Pro in his career, than Roquan Smith and how much he's added to this defense?
I mean, John Harbaugh about a month ago, or right around the trade deadline, we were talking about trades this year, and he thinks it's maybe the greatest trade in the history of the organization. Now, another one you could argue would be the night they swung the pick to get Lamar Jackson in the draft. But in terms of getting a player, he said it's got to be one of the great traders in the history of the organization, and I think it's true. Today, Lamar Jackson said of Roquan Smith, he said, he brings the Ray Lewis juice for our generation, which I thought was a great way to say it. Eric DeCosta, the GM, has called him a force multiplier, and he makes everybody better. And that's true. I mean, the defense operates off him. Patrick Queen is a much better inside linebacker alongside Smith than he was before that. And the whole defense feeds off Roquan Smith. I mean, I think around here, the thought is, wow, they view it here as a steal that they got Roquan Smith for what they did. Now there's other factors. He was in the final year of his deal. They had to work out an extension with him to make it not effectively a rental. They did. They got a deal done with him that December, so he's here for the long haul now. And I just thought Lamar Jackson's quote today about him being the juice of Ray Lewis for the new generation was so telling, because that's how they view him in that locker room, and he exudes that energy.
Bo, specifically, what does Todd Monken's offense do that could be the difference against this very good Kansas City defense?
It's a great question. They mix and they match. And the funny thing is, when the perception was when he came here and Greg Roman was gone and Todd Monken came in and they brought in Odell Beckham and they brought in Aguilar and they drafted Zay Flowers, they're going to chuck the ball all over the field. This is going to look totally different. And in the end, it doesn't look totally different. They still run the ball really well. They mix the run and the pass a lot. Lamar Jackson is going to run the ball. He had 100 yards against Houston. He's creative. Todd Monken is really creative with the way they mix things up. And I go back to the play they had a fourth down play this past week against Houston. Patrick Ricard, the big fullback, comes in motion, powers in behind Kevin Zeitler, the guard. Gus Edwards goes right up the middle. Remember, this is 4th and 1. So, of course, Houston piles in on the run, and Lamar Jackson keeps it and goes on a naked boot to the left side and gets like 15 yards. So Todd Monken's not afraid to mix it up. Their passing game, they don't go deep as much as I think we all thought they would this year. Lamar Jackson takes a shot or two a game, but he's still most effective between like 10 and 15 yards. And against Houston, I think he only threw for about 159 yards. Jackson does not have to throw for 300, 350 yards for this team to win. And in fact, they're probably better if he's under 200 yards, because then that means they're running well and he's throwing the little short hitches that work well. Guys like Isaiah Likely and Zay Flowers are really good at making yardage after the catch. That's a big difference this year than last year, is the way these guys make yardage after the catch. So all those things are the ways they're going to try to stay a step ahead of the Chiefs.
Bo, Kyle Hamilton's been outstanding. How will he match up potentially against Travis Kelce and this passing game, particularly in the red zone against Kansas City?
Yeah, that's one of the matchups I think it's going to be most interesting to watch, because, of course, Kyle Hamilton was drafted to be a starting safety, and this year he has played a lot effectively as their 6'4" nickelback. He is really physical he's 6'4", he's about 220, I think, but he's a really physical tackler. And sometimes they have a smaller slot guy named Arthur Millette, but ideally in this game, I think we'll see a lot of Kyle Hamilton in the slot on Kelce. I think where Hamilton's strength is how physical he plays. He can shed blocks. We've seen him multiple times this year on one of these bubble screens. These teams try to set up a bubble screen for a running back or for a receiver who steps back by 2 steps to catch a ball. And Hamilton will just throw the blocker to the side and make a really good fundamental tackle. So his length is really good in the slot. His instincts are good. Sometimes they'll bring him on a blitz, too, out of the slot, which can be tricky. But I think him matching up against Kelce will be one of the primary or marquee matchups of the day.
Bo, we have 1 minute left. If you could, we'd love a prediction.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this. And around here, the fearful fans here say Mahomes is the winner until he's not. But I think this Ravens team, and I'm not a homer by any stretch, the way they have put away good teams week after week after week this year, to me, resonates. And I think they win this game with their defense. Their defense has frustrated and physically mauled good team after good team this year. And I think their defense sets the tone. I'm going to pick the Ravens to win, say, 30 to 24. I think there'll be some points. But I don't think you can overestimate how effective the Ravens' physicality has been on defense. We have seen team after team just look beaten. I go back to the old Roberto Duran, the boxer, no mas, right? That's how we saw the Lions look. That's how the Seahawks look. That's how the Texans look. They all looked like that by the end of the game. They just wanted to be off the field. So I have the Ravens winning by, well, I'll say the Ravens win by 6.
That is a great spot. Bo Smolka, Press Box, Ravens beat writer at B Smolka on Twitter. Thank you, Bo. Enjoy the football.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.